Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Coffee and Football, presented by Rick Favreau and Austin Underground. I'm your host, Blake Monroe, where I'm joined daily by Bobby Burton and Jerry Hamilton, who's feeling much better. He's back in the saddle with us today. We're 67 days away from kickoff, so be sure to tell us who your favorite number 67 is. Rob Enfield keeping me in check there. And be sure to tell us where you're checking in from this morning, what you're drinking, get your questions in. First, guys, let's talk recruiting, as that seems to be the hot topic here lately. Jerry,
Why?
what you got for us?
Look, I may have been sick, but I'm not dead. Let's go. I don't think. I did feel like a corpse Saturday night and Sunday, though. All right.
Jerry, recruiting going on right now. We were talking about it prior to coming on here. Longhorns have a list of guys that are getting ready to make announcements. Here is the upcoming commitment schedule. We're missing one guy. We want to add one guy who announced after he announced his commitment time after we started making this graphic. That's defensive tackle Damari Simeon. You can add him on that June 27th time at around 4:00 Central. But Jerry, this is the upcoming commitment schedule for the Texas Longhorns that we're monitoring.
Yeah, I'll go down those guys. But first, I want to say it was very nice of CJ to put on the Texas uniform for the photo in this edit in this graphic. So thanks to CJ, and happy birthday to CJ, by the way. Xavier Crowell, everybody tell CJ happy birthday. Xavier Crowell will announce on June 26th. I'll run down these. Alabama has been considered the favorite. I think Texas feels like they're in it. We'll see which way that goes. Chase Calicut on the 27th, Texas or Georgia. That things to sway back and forth. I think multiple teams are confident. Malachi Lee on the 27th. I still believe that's Michigan, Texas. I'm not going to rule out Georgia or Alabama, but everything you hear is more Michigan, Texas, but it is recruiting, right? Also on the 27th, you mentioned Damari Simeon. I still feel pretty good about that, even though he did make that Ohio State visit late. He canceled it, then Ohio State got him to come in. I still think Texas, Michigan, again, some interesting battles, some different schools popping up here late. Texas, Michigan for Damari Simeon. Xavier Griffin on June 29th. He's going to be very interesting because that Texas was in a good spot for him despite all the picks elsewhere. But I'm just not sure I see him and Tyler Atkinson going to the same school. So we'll see if Texas gets one of those guys. Xavier Griffin, I think Alabama, Texas. He was at FSU last week, and Ohio State's the fourth. Kendall Gerville there on July 2nd. I still feel pretty good about that with Texas. I have since I went to Fort Myers, by the way. And he's always been pretty upfront and transparent about his recruiting process. He actually moved his commitment up. A week ago, he was a guy that was thinking about going early into the season, maybe after a couple of games. He did move his up to July 2nd. Worth noting, Georgia, Florida, not going to give up there. They're going to keep fighting out. Bryce Perry-Wright, I don't expect him to be in the Texas class with Richard Wesley committing. I think that's leaning more A&M or Clemson. But Texas will probably still have a hat at the table. John Turntine, Texas, Michigan, Texas A&M. I think Stanford would be the surprise there. Caden Finley, Texas or Notre Dame. Jalen Lott, I'd be surprised on Texas. USC or Oregon. Lamar Brown should be A&M or LSU, but that recruitment will go into his senior season. That one's not over no matter what. Jamarian Carlton on the 10th. I think Texas is in a pretty good spot there. Another one we don't have on here July 2nd is Trenton Henderson. Trenton Henderson's going to be Texas, Florida, or LSU. I think Texas or Florida, unless LSU upsets one of those two. If Trenton Henderson went Texas' way on the 2nd, I'm not saying he is. If we're playing the if game in recruiting, what would that do to Jamarian Carlton's thought process? Smoke Matthews moved up his announcement from August 12th to July 11th. I think Texas, South Carolina, Miami. I think Texas has had some confidence there. Caden Prothro, Texas had a great visit. So you're now Georgia, Florida, Texas. Georgia really needs to win that one, by the way. Hezzy Kent, Texas, Florida. I don't think Miami's really in it. He visited FSU over the weekend. I think SEC, Texas, or Florida there. Look, Texas ain't going to get all these guys. I think they're going to get their share of guys. And I think we're going to look up in mid-July and Texas will have a top 5 class.
Jerry, here's the question I had for you. I wrote an article this morning for On Texas Football. And those 4 guys that you mentioned, you know who they're finally out of all those schools, the finalists for all those 4 players they're announcing this week. Okay. Calicut, Crowell, Simeon, and I'm missing the 4th one there. Goodness gracious. Malachi Lee.
Yeah.
Those 4. Okay. Those 4 guys, the only schools they're considering there's 6 other schools or 5 other schools: Michigan, Alabama, Georgia, Ohio State, and Penn State.
That's the sandbox you want to be in.
Perfectly said. That's what I'm getting at. And look, we talked about this is Texas, because historically you and I have done this. Texas is even though they have a national brand, historically Texas is a regional recruiting power that kind of dabbles their toe in California or dabbles their toe in another state. They're all in, baby.
Yeah.
This is a national recruiting power that Steve Sarkisian's trying to build, and that's what they're doing. And to your point, that's the sandbox you want to be in, whether it's a kid from New Jersey, a kid from Florida, a kid from Hawaii. Wherever it may be, that's the sandbox you want to be in.
And I think Malachi Lee is one of the more interesting recruitments for me because he's announcing on the 27th. I don't think any of the schools really have the feel for where he's going to go yet. A lot of times these guys have a feel 3 days out. As of Monday afternoon, calling about 3 different people, I don't think anybody had a true feel for which way he was headed. Those that makes for a fun recruitment for me because, Georgia's hopeful, although they got a big-time offensive tackle a week ago. Alabama, I don't know. But Michigan and Texas, I don't think there's a clear thought on which way it's going right now, which makes it fun this time of year.
There we
I just broke my streak.
What was your streak at one day?
Man, it's been like at least a month and a half, 2 months. I hope Joe Z's not in the chat. I'll tell you that.
Blake, you're muted. You're muted, buddy.
All right, Bobby, if you would let everyone know about Austin Underground, I'd appreciate it.
Absolutely. Since 2004, Austin Underground has specialized in difficult underground commercial installations. The team's engineering background gives Austin Underground the ability to perform work other firms often consider too risky. Rick Vavro and his team offer an end-to-end client experience, including seamless communication, budgeting, staffing, and top-notch trade partners. And most importantly, they produce solid quality work each and every time. That's Austin Underground. Want to add in, they also have a sister company called Texas Road. If you have large road projects, be it a subdivision or a ranch even, that need help, make sure you check out Rick and his team's company, Texas Road, as well. That's Austin Underground and their sister company, Texas Road.
Sarah McCoy said this very well. Big boy recruiting sandbox, Big 12 recruiting cat box. I think I agree.
Oh, wow. Sarah McCoy coming strong today.
I like it, Sarah.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good. Hey, Blake, before we get, I know we're going to have everybody's recruiting questions. We're going to get to those. You have the preliminary team rankings, I believe it was, from Athlons that we're going to look at this morning and discuss a little bit so we can get into it. All these preseason rankings coming out. We're going to have a couple of guys on throughout the next two months or so to talk about these rankings, whether it's Phil Steele or any of those guys as well. But look, national rankings starting to come out, and they're favorable for the Longhorns, not so favorable for the Aggies, which is somewhat surprising considering how many returning starters they have, plus their 2 running backs are returning as well. But we'll see what happens here. Blake, you have that list ready to go?
I do. Let's take a look. So they actually ranked. So let me make sure I have the right one up here, fellas. They actually ranked 1 through 136. We're just going to take a look at the top 20. I broke them down about 5 at a time here. As you can see, Texas, number 1 in Athlon Sports rankings, followed by Penn State, Ohio State, Georgia, and then Clemson closes out the top 5.
The top 4 are close to the Final 4 last year if you add in Notre Dame. right? Clemson lost what, round of 16 or round of 12?
Yeah.
I mean,
look, Texas is a prohibitive one right now for people, which that's what it now. Will it be that way in the AP poll, or will they go with Ohio State until they get knocked off? But Texas is, well, they're almost a prohibitive number one at this point with all these lists coming out. And obviously, you look at Texas, Penn State, Ohio State. I mean, maybe Georgia. I don't know on Georgia. They have the rosters to get it done, I think, and combined experience maybe in Penn State's class or in Penn State's case. But I think that, again, the most interesting team to me in all these early rankings is going to be Georgia, because what do they say? Georgia reloads with new talent under Kirby Smart. That may be true in one regard, but I'm not sure it's the same as it was. And that puts a lot of pressure on Gunnar Stockton and their offensive line. And people say, well, you could say the same thing about Texas. Well, Texas has more guys back. I mean, Georgia lost 9 starters off their defense that were either drafted or signed free agent contracts. That's a lot. And they lost guys at every single position, and multiple guys at All-American spots. So that's going to be interesting. Georgia's offense has more pressure on them than ever this year, in my opinion, which is going to make, because they play the toughest schedule they've had in a while too.
Read the part that they said about Clemson there, Jerry. Clemson's return to ACC dominance with a loaded defense, eyeing a national title under Tom Allen. They're not even talking about Dabo Swinney. They're talking about Clemson's new defensive coordinator that comes to them from Penn State. Expecting that bigger turnaround in 1 year for a defensive coordinator, I don't know. Look, I think they'll probably be better. I also think that people can have false hope when it comes to something shiny and new as it relates to coaching. I mean, they can be putting too much onus on that situation, in my opinion.
But the thing for Clemson fans, you're going to know in game one how quickly Tom Allen's worked it in some magic, because Nussmeier and LSU have talent. And if they roll in there and put up 30 on you, even if you win 34-30 or if you lose 30-28, I mean, you're going to know quickly. Now, if Clemson holds LSU to 17 and wins 31-17, then Tom Allen's done an amazing job, because anybody that watched Texas Clemson knows last year Clemson they have good enough talent on defense, but they didn't play physical. They didn't out-physical at you at the point of attack, and they had some holes.
Well, LSU loses that game. I'm just saying this. LSU loses that game to Clemson. Brian Kelly may have a for sale sign in his yard.
I was going to take it a step further. If LSU loses at Clemson, I'll be listening to talk radio in Louisiana and that. Because if you there's some people, if you're driving through Louisiana on your way to like Destin or something, and you turn on the radio, the local radio in Louisiana, when they don't like their football coach, it's the best college football sports talk going. It's amazing. I mean, it's just such vitriol and hate.
Oh man! All right,
they're ready to take him to the bayou and be done with him.
Yeah,
I completely agree. I mean,
let's go fishing out here. Where? Don't worry about it. Come on.
All right, let's look at 6 through 10, fellas. Speaking of LSU, they're right in that mix. Notre Dame at 6, LSU 7, Alabama 8, Oregon 9, and Miami 10.
Are you buying Miami?
No,
I'm not either. I understand. They've improved their talent level, but are you buying Mario Cristobal as a coach right now? I mean, I know he's good talent evaluator, Jerry. You've talked about this for years with him, but my question is bigger than that. Is he a good coach? I mean, he won a couple of Pac-12 titles at Oregon, but I'm just kind of wondering what his issue is at Miami that he can't seem to get over the top. He had the number 1 overall pick at quarterback last year, Jerry.
And my thing with Miami is, look, that favorable schedule, obviously, conference, but is Carson Beck going to play at the level of Cam Ward?
Does he? No, of course not. But the issue is he's also in a different conference now, with less bullets flying around him.
He is. That is good for Carson Beck. But Carson Beck's got to have a really, really good year for Miami to reach these type of heights. I mean, they lost their best wideout too. Defensively, now they have they got a little hidden talent at some spots on defense, but they have to take a big step defensively because last year, I mean, they couldn't have stopped Duncanville if it mattered.
That's fair. That's fair. You look at Notre Dame here. The key here will be, and I think they've got it right, CJ Carr, the quarterback. I mean, Riley Leonard was he was so much better than Sam Hartman the year before. They're finally having a quarterback that now has grown up in their system. And Mike Denbrock, the offensive coordinator at Notre Dame, who was the former offensive coordinator for Brian Kelly down in Baton Rouge and Jaden Daniels, that group, they think they have something special in CJ Carr at Notre Dame. If he is special, I think that Notre Dame is a I don't know, I don't want to call him a dark horse for the national championship, but I think there's certainly a possibility. I will tell you that if he is as good as some people are thinking he's going to be. If he's not, I don't know this because we haven't seen him. I think they're going to sputter a little bit. We'll see. Marcus Freeman's got the program headed in the right direction though. They've got good players. They're playing good defense. We'll see if they can be. And that the running back Jeremiah Love, guys, big fan.
Yes.
Big fan.
Well, just think about, we were just talking about Miami. Notre Dame comes to Coral Gables week 1. I mean, that if Miami loses at home to Notre Dame, you know what's coming. Florida is coming to town 3 weeks later. And Mario Cristobal, if he doesn't win one of those 2 games, if he loses both of those games, there may be more fans at East Texas high school football games in fans than in Coral Gables.
I wouldn't say may. I'd say there will be.
But to your point with Mario, he better win one of those 2 games. Those are 2 tough games at home, but he better win one of them.
Yep.
If he goes 0 for 2 in the first 4 weeks against those 2 teams, that fan base is going to turn on him.
What do we think about Oregon?
Better get better on defense.
Do you think that's their issue?
And, I think Dante Moore is very talented. Very talented. And he's going to have and now they lost Evan Stewart for the year. Decorian Moore's a freak. But they're going to have really talented, fast skill guys. I think they do a good job on offense. I think Will Stein will do a good job making the game easy on a first-year starting quarterback. I think they'll be solid up front. Defensively, they got to make strides. I mean, if you look back on they gave up 31 at home to Ohio State and won that game by 1. And then they gave it 31 in 15 minutes to have 18 minutes to Ohio State in the playoffs. But defensively, they got to take a step for me to be a true contender. I think offensively they'll be fine. I think they have a good system. They have fast guys. They can score touchdowns. Quarterback play is going to be solid. Even though he's young, I think he's very talented. And you got to remember, he came in and beat out guys that were in their system. So he's obviously shown Will Stein and Dan Lanning a lot. But it's going to come down to defense for them. I really believe that. I think Alabama, the one team we hadn't talked about, Kalen DeBoer, not like he's going to get fired. He's a great coach, but he's got a lot of pressure on him. He's got to make the playoffs in year 2. He's got to find a way in, else it doesn't matter. I think the guy's a fabulous coach, but that fan base, if he misses the playoffs 2 years in a row in a 12-team playoff following Nick Saban, there's going to be some knives out from the fan base. Just or not.
I think they're a year away at quarterback, but they'll be competitive in every game. They should be, Alabama. Competitive, I just don't think they're going to – I don't think they're a one-loss team or something like that because of the quarterback position.
Yeah.
All right, let's look at 11 through 15, fellas, and some more SEC opponents here. Florida at number 11, South Carolina at 12, followed by Kansas State, Arizona State, and then Michigan comes in at 15.
One thing I'll say, 11, 12, 14. What quarterback really elevates this year? Is it going to be Lagway? He has the most talent around him. Is it going to be Sellers, just ends up being a freaky guy in college? that takes you to the playoffs. I suspect Sam Levitt's going to make a big jump. I personally like what Sam Levitt did in the offseason, guys. I think it shows leadership, belief. That guy took a lot less NIL to stay in. And now he's doing well, but he took half of what he could have got at other places. That shows leadership, belief in his coaching staff. He's there for the right reasons. Guys like that tend to elevate their team. So I expect Arizona State to be really good again, honestly. And Texas Tech has real competition in the Big 12 because I think Levitt's a really good player. But the interesting one is which of those three quarterbacks is somebody kind of just put it all on their shoulders and elevate a team?
I think Lagway and Sellers, you could make arguments for the two best quarterbacks in the SEC. And I know Arch Maning's going to be on those lists. But along with Nussmeier, I feel like Florida, if they have another difficult schedule year, we'll see how they manage their way through it. South Carolina lost a lot on defense, Jerry. They had a better defense than maybe what people realized last year. I don't look. I want to see if Arizona State can duplicate what they did a year ago when they don't have a Cam Scatterbo as a leader of the team. And I don't want to say a spiritual leader, but he was very much a Roshan Johnson type for that team. Yeah. And so I know Sam Levitt is talented, wouldn't say otherwise. But let's see if it all comes together. And they're not, I will say this, they're not really good on defense, in my opinion. I know it's saying quietly elite defense. We'll see if they're quietly elite or if they're just a situation. No. The other thing I want to add here, I don't understand why Michigan is even in the top 15. They beat Ohio State last year and were really good. They lost their two running backs. I just don't know that Michigan's that good. They lost their two defensive tackles. They lost a starting corner. They lost a safety. I'm not thinking Michigan is going to be I just don't think look, Sharon Moore, talk about guys that are quietly under the gun. I think Sharon Moore is one of those. I mean, he had a very mediocre year last year until he beat Ohio State. He mismanaged the quarterback situation horribly. And then now he's going to put all his money on a true freshman that apparently has not looked all that great, by the way. So I'll let's see what Michigan comes out and does, because I think that it's going to be a slow burn for them at best. Ohio, I'll take Oklahoma over Michigan. I'll tell you that much right now in game one or whatever they play, game two.
Yeah. Well, speaking of Oklahoma, they're coming in this next group of five, and the final group of five that we're going to look at, 16 through 20 here, fellas. And 16 is Indiana, 17 Illinois, 18 Ole Miss, followed by A&M at 19, and finally OU at 20.
Crazy. That's like an AP basketball poll with Indiana, Illinois back-to-back. You don't see that in football very often. Indiana's going to be better at quarterback. For those that didn't watch Cal last year, that guy's good. That guy's good. I think Miami tried to get the wrong guy, unless Mendoza just picked Indiana over Miami, which probably wasn't the case. Illinois is that sleeper team. Luke Altmaier's a quality guy. Both Brett Bielema he's an interesting character, but kids play hard for him, and that's not to be you got to take that into account. And they're not going to be the most talented team. They're probably athletically more gifted than Indiana, but those guys play hard for Bielema. Ole Miss is going to be interesting. It's all on Austin Simmons. Obviously, they don't have the same portal class as far as just amazing stud guys on defense. Then we get to A&M and Oklahoma, and A&M, everybody's talking about Marcel Reed's growth at quarterback, and I get it. But health at running back and their defensive front. Because as much as people are talking about A&M's offense, they lost three stud talents on the defensive line last year. What's their defensive front going to look like? Is that defensive front going to give Torian York freedom once again, or is it going to be a different look? Is Mike Elko going to be more involved in defensive play calling this year? Because he almost made a DC change after last year, but didn't want to do it after year one because that's a bad look. So is he going to be more involved in defensive play calling this year? Because we know what Brent Venables is doing at Oklahoma.
He is calling the defense.
Yep.
He's coaching for his job. I think both of those teams. This is my question. Do you think either of those teams breaks through this year? I mean, they're both they're the two teams that is Texas' major rival, right? Which one of those is more likely to break through, in your opinion, A&M or OU? I'm going to say I'll take OU, and the reason why I see Blake already saying no, the quarterback and the defense. I do think OU's defense is legit. I don't know that A&M's defense is not legit. I'll just point blank say it. So I think it's more chance that OU breaks through if they can get enough from their offensive line. That's my take on it. Who do you think breaks through of those two? Who has a better chance, Jerry?
Well, I guess what's the breakthrough? Because 8-4 with Oklahoma's schedules is really good. So A&M's schedule is a much better spot than Oklahoma's. Like if Oklahoma goes 10-2 on that schedule, then I'll owe Brent Venables a hat tip because that's a tough schedule. And so what's breaking through with Brent Venables in Oklahoma on that schedule? A&M's got the better schedule for sure.
That's me.
Who do you think? Who you going with, Blake?
I'm going to go with A&M just because of Oklahoma's schedule, toughest in the nation. I think this is the last year of the Venables experience.
Ooh.
Well,
so you think it's it?
Yeah, I think this is it, fellas. Happy trails.
Casey had a good comment. I heard Nagy is calling a defense for Brent. Well done, sir.
Hey, if Venables is gone, okay, if Venables is gone after this year for whatever reason, it's going to test the whole GM idea at Oklahoma. Who's going to take the Oklahoma job if Jim Nagy is the predetermined GM?
Yeah.
They may have a hard time finding the right coach. They may have a hard time finding the right coach if there's an embedded GM that's not moving. So it'll be interesting to see because college coaches, historically, one of the reasons they coach in college, Nick Saban will tell you this, is the dominion. They have the dominion over player personnel. A lot of them want that dominion.
Yeah.
Now, maybe, I don't know, maybe Lane Kiffin takes that job because he doesn't necessarily want them.
Well, they're going to hire an offensive guy after a defensive guy. That's
true.
College athletics.
Yeah, fair.
All right, fellas, before we move
point, Bobby, not sure I'd see Kenny Dillingham doing that in that situation.
Right. You're not going to take a job where you don't have control. If from a successful job, unless you're accustomed to that.
Yeah.
All right, guys, before we move on, I'm going to tell everyone about Huel today. And summer doesn't slow down, and neither should your nutrition. Huel Black Edition Ready to Drink is a complete meal that's ready when you are. Toss it in your bag, hit the road, and fuel up without missing a beat. And I'll tell you right now, the Ready to Drink is a total game changer. It's a perfectly balanced meal that saves you time. It tastes good. It's good for you. 35 grams of protein, 27 vitamins and minerals, high fiber, low sugar. You're going to feel full, focused, and ready for your day, no matter what it may throw at you. Now, Huel's already sold over 500 million meals around the world, and now it's your turn to try it. New customers can get 15% off plus a free gift at Huel.com when you use promo code ONTexas. And I've told y'all all along, my days are absolutely crazy chasing around 3 kids. I don't always have time to get a good meal in me. So I rely on Huel to come in clutch. They save me time. They save me money. There's no prep, no cleanup. Just grab it and go. So start saving your own time and money without compromising your nutrition today with this exclusive offer of 15% off plus a free gift for new customers when you use promo code ONTexas at Huel.com. That's Huel, HUEL.com, promo code ONTexas. Please see the description for the terms and conditions. Skip the stress, not the nutrition. Try Huel today for complete nutrition bottled. All right, Bobby, let's go back to 67 for a moment. You know, every day I've been asking you about your favorite 67, or some of your favorites, I guess I should say. So what do you got for us today?
Well, there are only a couple that have their statues outside the stadium. Right?
Wow.
This is Julius Whittier, first African-American player at the University of Texas. He's right out in front of the Frank Denius Hall of Fame there at the University of Texas. A powerful statue, originally from San Antonio, Highlands High School. His dad was a doctor, mom, a school teacher, community organizer. He was the first African-American at the University of Texas, went on to have a successful career in law after the University of Texas, and long an advocate, served on several different boards at the University of Texas, just a storied career, a great representative of the University of Texas, and happy that he's there in front of that Hall of Fame, that he deserves that statue. A lot of people don't realize this, Jerry. He's a lineman these days, right? You know the term big humans?
Yeah.
How big do you think just without knowing, because I know you don't know this, how big do you think Julius Whittier was coming out of high school?
6'2", 215 with a great set of calves. Look at those calves.
Okay, Blake, so 6'2", 215. What do you think, Blake?
Oh, man. I'm right around where Jerry is. I'm going to say 6'1", 220.
So y'all had two-way linemen, right? You know what he was? 5'11", 193.
Wow.
That's how much it has changed. College football has changed in the last 40 years or 50 years now, I guess, because he would have signed, I think, in 68, 69. So,
That's
yes.
crazy.
Yeah, it is. It is different these days. But hats off to Julius Whittier and what he did for the University of Texas, breaking the color barrier.
Man, that is wild. All right, guys,
5'11", 193. You think that's Kyle Flood's version of a big human? I mean, they're recruiting guys. They recruited Cam Williams that roughly weighed twice Julius Whittier when he came out of high school. Wow. Just putting that out there. Times have changed.
Yes.
They eat their the boys eat their vitamins these days, I think, a little bit differently.
All right. Well, we talked football recruiting, guys. One of the other things that we need to talk about is a little baseball recruiting.
And it's been a big few days, Blake.
Yes. Texas with a huge day yesterday. B2 and ATX says, Blake, hope there's some time for baseball talk. Big day for Schloss and Co. yesterday. Believe they are set at every position. No? And yes, it sure seems like it. So yesterday they started the day getting a commitment from Stanford shortstop Timo Becerra. And he visited last week, Thursday and Friday, went 341, 36 RBIs. He's actually a graduate transfer, so he'll have 1 year left to play. But then the really big news came shortly after that when Carson Tenney committed to the Longhorns. Now, he's the first-team All-American, Buster Posey Award semifinalist, considered to be the best catcher in the portal. 348 at the plate, and every school in the country seemed to want this guy, but it came down to Texas, Florida, and Georgia, and Texas landed him. So yes, they are set at every position. B2 and ATX, from what I've been told, from here on out, it's just cherry picking. So they're going to go see who they can get that's elite and can be a difference maker. But huge day for Schloss. Yes.
So what is that? That gives them a shortstop, a catcher. What other positions that they filled?
And then we got 2 pitchers that have, recently committed. 2 or 3 outfielders, and then one what was described to me as a super utility player that can pretty much play any position on the field. And then we got people asking about pitching. As I said, 2 pitchers. If they take another guy, it'll have to be somebody really elite. But yeah, they're set, man. I mean, great job by Sloss in the portal, no doubt about it. Texas doing well.
Getting a first-team All-American is kind of big.
Yeah.
I thought his OPS was like 1,200. Is that right?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. It's insane. Just a heck of a prospect, both offensively and defensively. So definitely what they wanted for sure. All right. Well, we got super chats this morning, fellas. Let's jump into them and let's go back to football recruiting. Jay Lee says someone compared Wesley to Redding. Your thoughts?
Is he that athletic, Jerry? Does he have that kind of motor?
I think he's that athletic. I'm not sure he's going to be that big. He might be.
Corey.
I mean, Corey ended up being 300 plus.
I mean, Corey ended up being a defensive tackle in the NFL.
I'm not sure Texas wants Wesley to end up being 300 plus. They're recruiting a lot of 300 pluses.
They want a 275, 285 pound defensive end.
Yeah.
Long term. Maybe 265.
Yeah. Richard Wesley more compares to me like some of those 5 techs that Alabama had under Nick Saban. Some of those guys. Just think about some of those 5 techs that were 6'3", 6'4", 275, 285.
That could get after the passer and stop the run.
That's what Texas.
I'll sign me up for those. He almost sounds like a little bit like Lance Jackson, by the way, Jerry. Is that a reasonable comparison? He's just younger than Lance. I don't. Lance is a really high-end athlete. Yeah.
I always go back to when I was at Pleasant Grove, the spring of his junior year. They were testing out the new catapult type of system. It wasn't catapult; it was a different one. And he would have ran what would have been a 4.63 at 265, and then went through 95 on the mound like 6 hours later or something, or the next 3 days later, whatever it was. I was like, okay, that's just a little different. Like I ran 4.6 at 265. Now I'm going to go through 95 off the mound. And then he hurt his arm, obviously, his shoulder. But that's a little different.
Well, we're going to stay on the recruiting super chats. And Dawson Yarborough, thank you for yours. He says, who is your favorite non-Texas target recruit in 2026?
Ooh. Has there been somebody that you've liked a lot that wasn't a Texas target, Jerry?
A target or somebody that didn't get? Target.
Non-Texas target.
Let me think about that real quick. I'm pulling up a list of guys because there's going to be somebody for sure. Let's see. I think Jackson Cantwell. The offensive line in this class nationally is amazing, and Ian Nacho, the kid out of Baltimore, I think is a fabulous talent. Fabulous talent. Jackson Cantwell is a great talent. I mean, there's some high-end offensive line guys in this class for me. Those would be the 2 that really jump out. The Jordan Edmonds, Texas actually often never could get him in. The corner out of Sprayberry committed to Alabama. Out of Sprayberry in Atlanta, committed to Alabama. I think is a stud.
I got one you're forgetting, Jerry, that I know you like because we've talked about him. The Camden Capehart kid, wide receiver committed to Mississippi State.
Your guy who's fast. You're fast.
Yeah.
He's a sleeper in Texas. Anybody that runs 10-3, 10-2 in that range. I was actually going down the list. Oh, Isaiah Williams, the linebacker from Tavares, Florida, I think is a great talent. Great talent. He's committed to about 4 schools already, but that guy is a great talent. You pull up his huddle real quick.
Give me his name one more time, Jerry.
It's Isaiah Williams. He's out of just Tavares, Florida huddle. He may close on the ball as fast as any linebacker we've seen in a few years. It's actually a 215, 220-pound kid coming out of high school. I mean, this guy is a missile. Texas tried to actually get in on him, but could never really get in on him. He is a big-time talent.
I like Tristan Keys. Texas tried to get in on
Tristan Keys is great. Yeah.
Out of Mississippi. I thought he was tremendous. He's going to LSU. We think he's going to LSU.
So this is Isaiah Williams kid. We watched him when Texas offered him way back, but his play speed is ridiculous. I mean, his play, and I'm not comparing him. He's got Derek Johnson play speed, though, Bobby. It's like rare to see guys that are that reactive, and he's not as tall, and he's not going to run 10.6 probably. They don't really care about track in Florida, but his play speed is ridiculous. Again, he's playing on grass fields that the grass is too high and it's rained. But, I mean, he is just so fast and so explosive to the football. He's pretty special.
Gotcha. I can see that. I mean, look, guys that make – look, there are so many good football players out there, and this is one of the things I go back to when people start saying, oh, well, A&M's getting this guy or OU's getting this guy or Georgia's getting these guys. There are a lot of good football players out there. And one thing I will always – look at that dip, by the way, there, Jerry.
Dude, this guy's a mad mother, man.
The thing that I would say to you and to everybody is focus on who you get.
Yeah.
Because that's the real issue. If you have to start going down your list and you're going too far down your list, then you're not ultimately going to be competitive. Texas is not going far down its list. Whether they're getting an Isaiah Williams or not, they're in on Xavier Griffin and Tyler Atkinson, as well as Cozy Akpala, who I think is terrific, by the way.
Yeah.
So I'm just not – my point being, I think it's great to look at other players because you may be seeing the next great players, et cetera.
And you're going to play against them.
And you're going to play against them. But I'm just telling you, focus. The focus in recruiting has to be on who you're getting and who's on your team, because that's ultimately what's going to get your outcome. Mac Brown used to tell me this all the time. Bobby, it's not about who you lose because you're going to lose guys. But at the very most, you're going to see the guys you lose 4 times in your career. So 4 days out of, 1,600 almost in your career, you're going to see those guys you lose. The important ones are the ones you win and what you pour into them. So I agree with Mac in that statement.
All right, more recruiting super chats. This one from Longhorn Frenzy 1. Thank you for your super chat. Reading other teams' boards, it seems Texas is upsetting Georgia and Florida's apple cart. Texas' recruiting presence is certainly not going unnoticed. Jerry, do you sense that on your visits up there?
Yeah, it's always – I think it does upset the apple cart. It's always – it's fun, but when a team comes into a conference – and immediately does well in a conference and then starts recruiting well inside those teams' state, that creates some real recruiting vitriol. I mean, look, if Texas wins out for Gerville, if we're playing the if game, then they beat Florida for Myron Charles and had to battle all the way to the end last year. I mean, you're taking trench guys who are big-time players. What if Texas beat Florida for Trent Henderson? It would go nuclear at that point. And I'm not saying they are. But Justice Terry in Georgia last year, I mean, what happens if Atkinson picks Texas? I mean, then it goes nuclear. I mean, this is when you become really hated. It starts on the recruiting trail, then the football field.
I'm going to say this, okay? They can yell and scream all they want. Florida and Georgia have been coming to Texas for decades, taking some of Texas's top prospects. Decades. And Texas has never returned fire.
Yeah.
Until now.
Yeah.
Decades. I mean, look. I mean, it didn't start with DJ Lagway or Jonah Ajonye or Justin Williams. They have been doing it for decades. Alabama has been doing it for decades, okay? Just because now Texas is returning fire, you're going to get Georgia and Florida yapping like, oh, well, I mean, I can't believe they're coming over here. Screw them. I mean, excuse my language, but that's just bull. I think that, sorry, buddy. You started it.
This is why it means more is so much fun in the SEC because it does start in recruiting before the field. Like recruiting in the SEC in football is its own sport. And it's a blood sport. and it has been for decades, and it makes it so much fun to be a fan.
I think they really, you know what they don't like? And I will say this, they don't like defensive players.
No,
leaving.
100%.
They don't mind the flashy wide receiver or the big name quarterback or the running back that everybody, I mean, they're used to that. They don't like the nuts and bolts getting taken out from their apparatus. They don't like the defensive line, the linebackers. That's what they don't like to see because they know that's ultimately where they've had the edge for all these years. I truly believe that. The Deep South has had an edge, and the numbers in the NFL prove it out at defensive line and linebacker.
Yeah.
And,
to your point, Bobby, why was Kirby Smart the hire at Georgia when Nick Saban is running it? Yes, he played at Georgia. Yes, he's the favorite son, but that hire was a defensive guy who was getting a lot of really helping get Nick Saban get a lot of difference makers on defense. And Georgia had to stop the bleeding if they're ever going to get over the hump. They had to. Mark Richt, offensive guy, more offensive players. They had defensive talent, but that hire for Georgia was to slow down Nick Saban and keep him from winning 9-10 national championships and completely dominating. And Georgia made the right hire. And it's Bobby, it comes back to what you said. All Nick Saban was getting way too many of the difference makers on defense. Way too many. You couldn't catch up at that point.
Look, they get mad. Look, the best players in Florida have gone to other schools in the past, but it's when the defensive linemen and the linebackers and maybe some tight end, I mean, guys like that are kind of I don't want to say unsung heroes but you guys know what I'm talking about. They're not the prima donna, everybody wants to buy their jersey types. And I don't have a problem with those guys. It's just when they start seeing the fundamental part of their organization show a little rot or decay, that's when they really say, we know we're in trouble, And I think that's a little bit of what the belly aching is about. They bellyache about Justice Terry. They're not going to bellyache about a wide receiver or a quarterback. Yeah. They bellyache about the guys the Kendall Gervilles, the Myron Charles, those types.
I'm going to ask you that. Zane Petty asked, since we're on the topic. Realistic shot, yes. Percentages, I mean, you got to give Florida the edge until they are not the favorite.
That's the defensive end out of Pensacola for those people.
You got to give Florida the edge until he announces somewhere else. Kind of like Justice Terry. You got to – I mean, look, the Justice Terry recruitment, just remember, everybody that covered Georgia, Bobby, you were there. Everybody that covered Georgia was there. They thought he was going to Georgia. So until a kid says, I'm out, then Florida gets the edge on Trenton Henderson until he publicly says they don't have the edge.
Bobby, it's time for you to make everybody hungry this morning and tell us about Omaha Steaks.
Dude, I'm hungry myself. I could deal with a brisket burger or a filet from Omaha Steaks this afternoon. I'm going to have to talk to my wife, Jenny, about this. Look, 4th of July is coming up. Cookouts are a national tradition. From handcrafted steaks to family grilling favorites, Omaha Steaks delivers the world's best steak experience for all of your 4th of July grilling plans. Enjoy USDA certified tender steaks, juicy burgers, and so much more. Now, during their 4th of July sale, you can get 50% off site-wide at omahasteaks.com. Plus, our listeners get an extra $45 off with promo code ONTexas at checkout. There's nothing quite like the all-American feeling of a 4th of July cookout. Omaha Steaks has been America's original butcher since 1917, a family-owned company with more than 100 years of expertise. They also carry mouthwatering burgers, chicken, pork, seafood, and delectable desserts. Get fired up for the 4th with Omaha Steaks. Visit omahasteaks.com. Once again, 50% off site-wide right now during their 4th of July sale and an extra $45 off. Use promo code ONTexas at checkout. That's 50% off at omahasteaks.com and an extra $45 off with promo code on Texas at checkout. See site for details. And yes, it is extraordinarily good food. I've had it 2 weekends running and cannot complain. And neither can the people that came over to eat, by the way.
Longhorn Frenzy says, Bobby, the brisket burgers are absolutely amazing. Thank you for the
They
recommendation.
really, I mean, you see how fat that burger is in that picture right there? The brisket burgers literally come out that fat. Like a lot of the ones you get that are regular hamburgers, they shrink down. Those don't.
Looking good. All right, more super chat this morning, fellas, and we're going to go over to some team-related ones.
Oh, look behind your left shoulder right now, Blake. That was painful.
What did it say?
Texas versus Ohio State.
Oh.
That's the first game. Why is that painful? That's 67 days away.
Well, I mean, it's 67 days away, but it was also not that long ago. So.
Ooh.
Well, I do have it set to future.
Let's take the pain away. Let's
Yes.
take the pain away.
All right, guys. Team-related super chats this morning. We're going to start with Sean. Sean says, do we use 2010 to never get complacent again?
It's a different team and a different time, Sean, but I do. And I wasn't necessarily complacent with that team, by the way. I thought there were some real holes, but I did not expect 5-7 coming out of that year. I expected more from Garrett Gilbert at quarterback. And anyways, long story short, I don't think that Steve Sarkisian will use that. I don't think anybody in the Texas situation will even be remembering that. But I do. I think that fans do, and I think it's legitimate. Now, I do think complacency started before 2010. I think the just desserts came in 2010 for that complacency and actually carried on the next 3 years afterwards.
To me,
you reap what you sow.
To me, what happened then is the ultimate sin in coaching. They forgot what got them there and tried to change it. And I'll never understand why. And it was totally a bad decision. It's easy to say that now, but I was saying it then for anybody who was at lunch bunches. I could not believe they walked away from the type of offense and players they had and the level of success they were having and changed up the offense and changed up quarterback recruiting. It literally made 0 sense. And they got what they deserved.
No.
I went too far with early recruiting too, Jerry.
Yeah.
And I thought they did it. And I'm gonna say this, and I felt like they went way too far with early recruiting. Didn't watch players as seniors, except for maybe 1 or 2 guys. It just didn't take. They took more finished products as high school juniors. That's not recruiting. You have to coach some of these guys up. So, anyways, we can go back to 2010, or we can talk about a more polite subject and nice subject like 2025 and 2026 recruiting. So let's do that. Hey, Jerry, I've got this for y'all, and wanted to go over this. This is our commitment list at this point. 15 pledges overall for Steve Sarkisian and his group. You look at this list, Jerry. Take out Jake Collette, Mikey Bukakis, and Trot O'Neill because they're the specialists. Texas with 12 positional players right now. Chris Stewart, some notes from around the way. Chris Stewart announced yesterday that he's not taking any more official visits, so he's firmly in the group. What do you see of this group that's starting to stand out to you? Is it the defensive line? Because I haven't talked to you since I talked to you late last night, but yesterday morning we didn't talk about where Texas is headed. This defensive line group could be as good as Texas is recruited if they continue to domino on some of the players that they're after.
Oh, yeah, no doubt. I think that outside of Diabell, I think that is it. And I think the other thing, I want to comment on another guy in a second, but on D-line specifically, Corey Wells, Mississippi, Berrymont, Louisiana, Vodney, Cleveland, Alabama, Wesley, California. By the way, you're in a pretty good spot on Gerville in Florida. Do you win out for Simeon, who I think Texas is doing well with, in New Jersey? What happens at edge? Trenton Henderson. I think Texas is in a good spot for Jamarian Carlton. What happens if Trenton Henderson were to commit to Texas July 2nd? I'm not saying he is, but what happens? I mean, think about where the national net, but the talent on the defensive line, I think, is just really high end in this class, and I think it's going to get better. I do think it's going to continue to get better, and when I say better, add more pieces to it. The other thing I will say is I think Jermaine Bishop is a special athlete, whichever way, playmaker, whichever side of the ball he plays on. The one thing I'll say that I think Texas did exceptionally well at in a class when you can recruit a lot of guys. Now, you lost out on some guys. It's recruiting. It happens. Everybody does. But Cohen Brown, for those that never saw the interview, Texas is recruiting the right fits. They aren't collecting talent. They're still assembling a team. And I think that's the other thing that's tough. And I think it's tough for college sports is once you start to win, it's just easy to collect talent. And those people normally make mistakes. How do you still build your team? Cohen Brown is building a team. That it may be as impressive of an interview as we've had on Texas football of any kid that committed to Texas. That is a great evaluation. Yeah, it's one thing to run 10-6-9. And he put up stats in the District of Doom, as Blake calls it. But he was a great fit. That guy's a winner. He has a winner's mentality. And if guys are close, to always take the guy with the winner's mentality. If you sense any flags, don't do it. It's not about collecting talent.
All right. Bobby Betronic says win the national championship. Bobby eats mayo OTF dogs, and Jerry hangs his flight sign.
Jerry, you got to put that on the wall. It's hanging below the socket.
Dude,
I mean,
that would not
pitches higher.
That would not go over well. I'm just saying that's not going to happen. Bobby will eat corn dog mayo before that happens. I can answer one basketball question.
Oops, sorry, Jerry.
Zane Petty, does Texas have any shot about beating that Duke out for Austin Gooseby? Absolutely. I think Texas is the favorite right now. I know he's got a bunch of official visits. I think it comes down to Texas, Duke, maybe BYU, and I think Texas is the favorite right now. And he's a great
Jerry,
player.
we need to go
back.
One
and done first rounder.
We need to go back over because a lot of people join us during the hour. We need to go back to what we started with today and talk briefly again, Jerry. Just get your brief summation of what's going on with the upcoming commitment schedule, if you don't mind. Just quickly, if you would.
Yep. Xavier Crowell, Alabama considered the favorite. I think Texas feels like they're in it. That's June 26th. I'll say the first June 27th that's been added to this, or will add to this, Damari Simeon, who I love, defensive lineman out of New Jersey. I think Texas is in a pretty good spot. Michigan, I think, is number 2. Ohio State and Penn State are in it. Chase Calicut, I could see that going either way, Texas or Georgia. I think it's gone back and forth. Malachi Lee, total wild card recruitment. I don't think the colleges have a great feel for where he's headed 3 days out. I do think Texas, Michigan are most likely, but it's recruiting. It would be crazy to rule out Georgia or Alabama, but I think Texas, Michigan most likely. Xavier Griffin, it's going to be really interesting. I think Texas was doing well with him. And I think Alabama's door opened a little bit last weekend. Kendall Gerville on 7-2, July 2nd. I think Texas is in a pretty good spot there, but Georgia, Florida right there in it. Florida will keep battling that. That's one that even if he commits to Texas, we saw it with Myron Charles last year. Don't expect Florida to walk away. Another one will add the 7-2, July 2nd, Trenton Henderson. Florida slight favorite, I think, over Texas LSU. Bryce Perry Wright with Richard Wesley committing to Texas. That one would surprise me. I think that's more Clemson A&M. John Turntine, July 4th. Texas, Michigan, Texas A&M. I think Stanford's the one that probably doesn't feel like they have a good shot. Caden Finley, Texas, Notre Dame. Jalen Lott, I think we'd be surprised on Texas, USC or Oregon. Lamar Brown, he'll commit that LSU or A&M, and that recruitment will go into the season. Jamarian Carlton on the 10th. I think Texas leads for right now. Samari Smoke Matthews moved up his date from August 12th to July 11th. Texas, South Carolina, Miami, but may just come down to Texas, South Carolina. Can Texas prime away from home? Caden Prothrow, Georgia better win that one. Georgia, Florida, Texas. Hezzy Ken, I think Texas, Florida, unless FSU does something crazy. Tyler Atkinson, I think he'll announce early July, the 5-star linebacker. And I think Ojo, those decision dates are going to come out soon. I think early July is the guys who haven't announced their date yet. That's what's coming. There's an event in Las Vegas on July 4th. And there's a lot. Bryce Perry Wright's announced it. I think we'll see a couple other guys announce dates and decisions July 4th in Vegas.
I want to say this real quick. Our apologies to both Damari and Simeon, young man out of New Jersey, as well as Trenton Henderson out of Pensacola. We did not have your dates when we started making that graphic. We'll get that corrected for everybody for tomorrow. But that is defensive lineman Damari Simeon out of New Jersey, who's expected to announce June 27th, and Trenton Henderson, the defensive end out of Pensacola, who's expected to announce July 2nd.
More super chats this morning. Jeff Carey, thank you for yours. He says, guys, in the chat, what sports do you watch during the summer? Thank you for your attention on this very important question. Baseball.
Baseball is it for me. I'm not a basketball guy. Y'all know this. So Jerry is all about basketball this time of year. Congratulations to the Oklahoma City Thunder.
Yep.
By the way, world champions. What do you do, Jerry, whenever basketball is over? You don't watch baseball at all, do you?
No. AAU basketball.
Oh, okay.
Look, I was at Bergstrom Airport Friday. I drove up to Dallas for TABC, which is maybe it turned into the greatest event in high school basketball. And I was going to watch an Austin Gooseby. Sean Miller and the staff were there. So I was pulling double duty, and then Saturday afternoon I started feeling like deathly ill and drove back to Austin and literally stayed in the hotel bed for 24 plus hours. But golf majors for me, and I do think golf's a sport. Golf majors for me.
I do think golf's a sport.
A lot of people don't. And I 100% disagree with those people.
I got to say this. I had my first. This is a sidebar, by the way, so you can turn the channel if you want to. My father-in-law, the first time I met him, he's a big bowler, okay? And my very first interaction with him, he started calling bowling a sport. And I stupidly debated with my father-in-law, before he was a father-in-law, whether or not bowling was a sport. He was definitely in the bowling as a sport category, and I was in the other category.
And by the way, majors in tennis are awesome too. And we got. I mean, Alcaraz is great. He's going to be one of the all-time greats if he doesn't lose his mind or something. Sarah McCoy, does Kevin Durant elevates the Rockets the Western Conference contender? Well, they're in a better spot than Shot Chunker Jalen Green now. So I do like. I think that it's a 2-year window, and I think Kevin Durant's going to give it the best 2 years he's got left in the body. Yeah. But the West is going to be tough because Oklahoma City's management's great at what they do, I think. Legitimately draft great. They do a great job.
All right.
Oh, by the way, the hidden sport, if you're fishing around on TV stations, is like World Championship ping pong's unbelievable.
Oh, my gosh. You really watched that?
I've watched it. Like if you like high level World Championship ping pong's unbelievable.
Something I never thought I'd hear on Coffee and Football.
You know how great a hand-eye coordination you have to be to play ping pong at that level?
I mean, I
get it. Whoa! Somebody said fishing's not a sport. Brian Robeson's coming for you.
What? Definitely a sport. Catfishing may not be a sport. All right, Bobby, tell us about Austin Underground before we get to our last couple of questions.
Oh, my goodness. Long day today, guys. We're waiting for these commitments to happen. And I think that's where the world is. Since 2004, Austin Underground has specialized in difficult underground commercial installations. The team's engineering background gives Austin Underground the ability to perform work other firms often consider too risky. Rick Vagabro and his team offer an end-to-end client experience, including seamless communication, budgeting, staffing, and top-notch trade partners. And most importantly, they produce solid quality work each and every time. That's Austin Underground. You see those buildings going up in downtown Austin? Austin Underground is the firm footing for a lot of those buildings. I want to say a couple other things here about Austin Underground and Rick Vavro. He also has a bar out in Jonestown, out near the lake, Jonestown, Texas. If you get a chance, stop by the Lone Star Bar, have a cold one. Rick will be out there probably in the afternoons hanging out. That's Rick Vavro, his team at Austin Underground.
We got another super chat this morning, fellas, and we talked about OU earlier. Splendid Daddy wants to talk about them again. Thank you for your super chat. Says John Mateer is going from a G5 schedule in 24 to the SEC in 25. Seems insane. Doesn't seem like people are too worried about that massive gap. What are your thoughts?
I think to that point, I think there's two things with Mateer that I'm watching. One, if you have any gaps of inaccuracy, it doesn't cost a team as much in G5 because you're very talented player and you can make up for it. If there's some gaps in accuracy in SEC play, that's going to be an issue for Oklahoma's offense. The other thing is, and I know Diego Pavia did it, but he's like a UFC fighter and he was banged up. Okay, UFC fighter playing quarterback and he was banged up. If Oklahoma runs John Mateer, if he ends up with 185, 190 rushing attempts, he's probably going to be a little beat up late in the year. And when your job's on the line, that could be a big deal. They got to protect his body more, Bobby.
Yeah, they do, and he can't run as much as he did. I'm looking at some of his stats from last year, okay? So, Mateer, you can say what you want, but Boise was a pretty good team last year, right? Mateer went for 327 yards on them. All right? They played Washington. Washington, not a great team, but they beat Washington.
Yeah.
He went for 245 and also rushed for 62. He led the team in both categories. I mean, the better games he played better. So and was more a bigger piece of their offense. So I'm listening to Greg McElroy, the former Alabama quarterback, South Lake Carroll quarterback, guy that beat Texas in the national championship. He's really, really high on John Mateer and what he brings to Oklahoma. I want to see, to your point, Jerry, whether or not the run game that he provides is legitimate. Because if he gets banged up early, that could be not a good sign for OU the rest of the year. Now, they have better backups at quarterback than they've had the previous few years. But still, it's an issue. I'm intrigued, I guess is the best way to put it.
All right, then we have a super chat that just came in from Blake. You're muted, it's like the username. Jerry, which two tackles do you think we lead for?
Defensive tackles or offensive tackles?
Kendall Gerville and Damari Simeon right now, but they still have to announce.
Okay, so that's defensive. What about offensive tackles?
We'll see.
Well, that's no fun.
Jerry, you can't be that coy. Can't be that coy.
Look, I think we'll see if guys want to go to the same school at the end of the day.
Interesting.
Oh, that's a good hint. All right.
I'm not saying they don't. I think it's in the balance.
We have a super chat from Courtney Spikes. Do you think we're seeing the effects of Coach Choice leaving for the NFL with the lack of running back recruiting at the moment? Guys, this has been a hot topic as of late.
I think it's a piece of it. And Jerry, what I explained yesterday, I got the similar question yesterday morning. I mean, look, Chad Scott started over with Xavier Crowell, with Derek Cooper.
He wasn't recruiting those guys at Virginia.
Yeah, he wasn't recruiting those level of players at West Virginia. He just wasn't. And same with KJ Edwards, even, Jerry. I mean, even though there's the in-state tie, there's a reason why Kyle Flood is in on all these offensive linemen early and gets them to campus if they're in state. There's a reason that Kenny Baker, a year ago at this time, people were saying the same thing about him that they are now about Chad Scott, yet you fast forward a year when he's had a chance to get to know all these guys, and the results are different. I think that you'd be silly to say that Tashard Choice leaving didn't affect recruiting. Okay. But, let's see what the bounce back looks like, and let's see what this season finishes up with. You got to remember, Kenny Baker, it didn't look good this time last year, yet he still ended up with Josiah Sharma and Myron Charles. Well, let's see where Chad Scott and University of Texas end up before you throw dirt on his face.
And then one other one from Kyle. Out of those 14 commitments, Jerry, if I set the over-under at 8, what would you take?
Bring that back up.
I'm about to do that right now.
2 guys aren't on there. They'll be added by in the morning. Man, eight's yeah, you're on the right number there.
Interesting to see what Texas does at tight end, Jerry.
Yeah.
Whether or not the visit was enough with Caden Prothrow, whether or not they're able to hold off Florida with Hezzy Kent.
Yeah.
And Miami, by the way. Miami wants Hezzy Kent too.
Yeah, I think you're right at the number. That's a tough one. That's a good line.
Good stuff. All right, guys. Well, that's going to do it for today's episode of Coffee and Football, presented by Rick Favreau and Austin Underground. I want to thank them, along with Omaha Steaks and Huel, for sponsoring today's show. Bobby, what's later today?
Later today, we have the recruiting breakdown. Jerry and CJ and Jeff Howe are going to talk a little football recruiting. We also have the live stream tonight. But while you're here, I got to be honest, that the news is breaking, primarily the smaller news especially, is breaking on ontexasfootball.com. Make sure you visit over there on the message boards, whether it's a new announcement date or small changes to a person's to a recruit's school choices. It's happening on ontexasfootball.com. Visit us on the message board. Jerry, myself, CJ, Blake, and Jeff Howe, all posting pretty much on the hour over there. So give us a try. $39.95 for a year. It's regularly $59.95. But if you use promo code OTFOG for your first year and your first time, it's just $39.95 for 1 year. Again, OTFOG on TexasFootball.com. I gotta tell you, I think it's as good a deal as you're going to get anywhere.
It's like $332 a month. Can't beat that.
It's less than a Starbucks cup.
There you go.
How about that?
All right. Well, we will be back same time, same place tomorrow. So for Bobby Burton and Jerry Hamilton,